So they're kids, internet people and stuff. Figure I'll do this video the other way so that everybody can see me and how awesome I am. Because, you know, I got the shades, I got the shift ball instead of a shifter because, you know, I'm hardcore. Figured I would do kind of a little video on what I do specifically, because I've touched on it and brought it up a little bit. And I haul food grade tanker. So you will see the odd guy. There's a guy at Prime that does videos, actually very helpful videos, instructional videos on hauling. I don't think he does food grade. I can't remember. But he does some tanker work. But there aren't really any guys doing the tanker thing that are kind of out about it, I guess. You know, we're all hidden in the closet. Food grade tanker is one of these kind of weird little niche jobs that like pays really well and doesn't really have a lot of work involved. And it's kind of surprising me, and you know, at the risk of shooting myself in the foot in the future, it kind of surprises me that more people haven't gotten into it. You know, lots of guys run chemical. I think a lot of guys run chemical tanker because a lot of them get like a regional type of thing where they'll go to, you know, the 3 same deliveries a week, run those deliveries and go home, and they like it that way. Food grade kind of runs like a typical OTR setup. Right, I go to different places. We've got probably 30 or so receivers in the U.S. that we go to. There might be more, might be less. You know, I've kind of consistently gone to the same ones, but I know there's more than where I've gone. But we typically, you will end up like I've ended up meeting the same people over again and stuff like that, right? So where was I here? I get to see some familiar faces at times and kind of get used to how certain places have setups, which is really beneficial, I find. Just gonna fucking get rid of cruise here. Might get a little bit slippery up ahead. Missouri is a wonderful state that just seems to be permanently frozen. And by frozen, I mean it just, if the roads aren't already fucking icy, it's gonna start freezing rain to, you know, fix that real quick. But the roads were nice and dry up until now. Coming through the curve here, and all of a sudden everything's wet. So when it's wet and it's right around freezing, I usually start not paying more attention, but you know, eyeballing the road a little bit harder, I guess, just to see what it's like. Paying attention to that, you know, if I'm getting spray from other vehicles, to see if the road's wet, and to judge whether the road's wet or dry. Well, where was I here? Yeah, so I find that food grade tankers is kind of like right in the sweet spot for me, anyways. Like I said, I get to do the typical OTR stuff. There's not as much. I love running to the West Coast. There's a lot of drivers that don't. I genuinely enjoy it, but I find that, you know, most guys typically end up kind of, I don't know, disliking the West Coast. A lot of guys don't like California. It's got 55-mile-an-hour speed limits. You can do 60 and guys will leave you alone. For some guys, 60 is too slow. I mean, I'm doing 65 right now and I'm pretty content, right? I'll be okay slowing it down a couple miles an hour. It's not a big deal. California's climate is nice. People are usually fairly friendly at shippers and receivers. Even when I was doing the reefer stuff, usually the big produce warehouses out there were phenomenal. Lots of waiting, but usually they had like a full restroom facility, a food truck on site. They had all kinds of great stuff. You know, there's, if I had to wait somewhere for a load, I'd rather it be a place like that. Let's see if I can fucking flash this guy over here. There you go, buddy. Come on over. Come on over, pal. There you go. You know, again, that's not going to make everybody happy. Obviously, lots of people are going to be upset that they got to wait at all, which I get. It's the reason why I got out of reefer freight. But I haul a lot of chocolate and a lot of food-based oils. So I'm on my way to Quincy, Illinois, which is about 2 hours north of St. Louis, to get a load of coconut oil going back into Canada. So I'll take, you know, I got to go into East St. Louis, wash the truck or the trailer out, which I'm sure they're going to really enjoy because it's had 4 days or 3 days for the chocolate left in the trailer to get rock solid. You see that the car's damaged, but it's covered in ice, so she might start getting a little bit squirrely up here. I'm not sure yet. I know when I came through here going the other way, it was pretty bad. And I'm not even halfway through the state yet. I got a ways to go. I find that I get paid fairly well. Like I said, I get a per mileage rate, but I get paid all miles and I get paid hub miles. So what that means is, and guys getting into trucking will get that thrown around a lot. Well, we pay, top pay, best miles in the we pay the best mileage rate out there, and then you kind of find it, well, when you pay, we pay you 70 cents a mile for your loaded miles, and you get nothing for your empty miles, or you get 20 cents a mile for your empty miles. They won't pay you to deadhead. Especially so when you're an owner-operator. Most places, don't pay you to run empty. Here I get paid the same amount for all miles I run, and another one that places will say is we do PC miler, right? So PC miler effectively boils down to they pay you zip code to zip code. So they will, let's say you're going from Charlotte, North Carolina to Plainview, Texas, right? They will type in the zip, like Charlotte, North Carolina, Plainview, Texas. Whatever the Google machine tells them is basically the quickest route is the route that you get paid for, right? So it's zip code to zip code. So they'll, the zip code where you deliver to, or where you pick up, to the zip code where you deliver, which, again, for most towns, some like big cities have multiple zip codes, but most towns are in 1 or 2 or 3 zip codes, right? So, but what that means is they typically only pay the shortest route, which for a lot of stuff going to the West Coast is through Colorado, and Colorado is not a good road. Like, it's all interstate, but Colorado is like the most touristy state that's not on an ocean, right? So it's full of people, it's full of traffic all the time, and it's hilly, right? You burn oodles of fuel going through there. You got all kinds of hills. It's fantastic on your brakes. So most guys, myself included, I went over the top all summer, go across I-80 all the way out to, I can't remember. Basically I-80 all the way out. Either if I was going into like the northern end of California, you'd run I-80 all the way across over Donner and into Sacramento, and then go north or south from I-5. Or if I had to go to, say, LA, I would get on, I can't remember what I took, Salt Lake City, get on to 15, take 5th, or no, I can't remember what it is. It drops south and then turns into, or it hits 15. Run 15 through a corner of Arizona, it goes through Vegas, and then it intersects with I-40 in Barstow, which you then take across to LA. I'm technically not getting paid for all the miles that I drive there, but it's a much safer option, right? Especially, while wintertime, going across the top isn't really that great either. Or you go across the bottom, which is basically what I did. You can go farther south than I did, but I kind of, I got into the U.S. in Detroit, Michigan, so I run I-94. What way did I take? I took I-94 out to I-55. I think I took 55 south. I-55 south to I-70. Through St. Louis to I-44, which is what I'm on now. And ran I-44 all the way across Missouri and Oklahoma to Amarillo, or is it turned to I-40 in Amarillo, or is it I-40 at the end of Tulsa? I think it's I-40 in Tulsa, and run I-40 across all the way to Kingman, and then you take Highway 93 north of Kingman into Vegas. That way, again, is longer than if I were to run through Colorado, right? And it's actually longer than if I run across the top. But it's typically safer because you're farther south more, and you're avoiding as much of the bad weather as you can. Again, it's you can't always dodge the worst of it. Like I said, I got into a pretty nasty ice storm when I left. Like I started just east of St. Louis, and I got, in, I think, the first 4 hours, I did probably 40 miles. Not 40 miles an hour, I covered 40 miles, which is still visible. And it was just pileups everywhere, traffic at a standstill, nobody really knew what to do. And again, there doesn't seem to be, at least in this part of the country, a really clear-cut method on how to deal with that kind of traffic, because there's no real truck roads around some of these accidents on interstates, right? You're getting off and basically going into downtown St. Louis or West St. Louis or whatever, Ferguson and all that stuff. Like you're not really, it's not like you can, like in Texas, like I went across, I-40 in Texas, and there was, because of the wind, there was a truck rollover, another guy went in the ditch, so they had the highway shut down. We get off a ramp on the frontage road, and the frontage road is a 75-mile-an-hour road that runs literally parallel to the fucking highway. So, the difference is it's a 2-lane road. It's got 1 lane of traffic in each direction. That's not bad, right? You can still boogie across that road at a decent speed and, do what you got to do. So it's kind of a, it can be frustrating. Like I said, my company pays all miles, so whatever route I take, whatever I deem is the safest, is the route that I get paid for. They pay for any maintenance. Like, they take it out of my pay, but they will, case in point, my old man had a guy take off his hood 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, in a rest area. So the guy, it's pulled through parking, and the guy was sitting there when my old man pulled in, and I guess he was already in his truck, so when he stopped, there was nobody to his left, but when he started driving, now my dad was there, but he didn't look, so he didn't realize that a truck was now sitting there, so he started his left earlier than he should have, and took my dad's hood apart with his, his trailer. It's another Canadian carrier, it's another Ontario carrier, it was in Ontario, their insurance covers it all, my dad's off the hook, but the insurance is slow. So it was a $17,000 repair job, and that's another thing to pay attention to, kids. Parts for trucks are expensive. A hood, $17,000. Well, somewhere around $10,000 to $12,000 for the hood, and then the headlights and everything to be connected and all that stuff. Because my dad kind of turned it into getting a shaved hood with 359 style headlights. It was a $17,000 deal. So the insurance came up with, well, from the start we'll pay $7,000, you pay $10,000. And my dad's sitting there like, I don't fucking $10,000. So my company, here's the check for $10,000. You go hand that in there, and we'll wait for the insurance to figure themselves out. If the insurance doesn't figure themselves out, they pull a bit off my dad's pay until he pays them back, right? There's never been an issue with that, right? I've had the same thing when I had my fuel filters gelled up. We got that real cold burst. This is whatever, January. My fuel gelled up. My fuel filters needed changing on the side of the highway. A fuel filters, I think I paid $30 for the last one I bought from Peterbilt. $600, almost $700 to get them changed on the side of the highway. That's kind of shitty. Well, my companies, there you go. Will they take a credit card over the phone? Yep, says they will. All right, here's the credit card number. We'll take it off your statement. So there's they're no stress, right? They kind of take care of you like a company guy to keep you moving, right? And they typically, this place sets it up to keep you moving. So again, where my delivery's going into a town that I'm not that fond of going into, and not because it's a bad place or anything, it's just, it's not the most truck friendly. You got to get away from the highways to get in there, and I will likely, though not for sure, but likely not deliver that load. We have a lot of local guys, day cab drivers and stuff, that do all the deliveries, right? And then the project manager said, we know that you own, especially the owner operators, the OTR guys make their money running their miles. You're not making money doing pickups and deliveries, right? I get paid per hour when I sit at a pickup or delivery, but I don't get like a lump sum to deliver, right? I get $40 an hour to sit and wait to deliver or load or anything like that, which is pretty good, right? $40 an hour is nothing to slouch at, to sit in my truck and play video games while I wait for them to unload me. But they try to keep the OTR guys sitting to a minimum, so we end up doing a lot more almost not quite drop and hook all the time. Like usually what'll happen is I'll show up, I'll pick up a trailer that's already loaded, I'll take it, I'll deliver it, I'll then either get the trailer washed or switch it out. All these tank washes, some of them we have trailers, where the one I'm going to typically we don't. So I'll do what's called a live wash. So I'll pull into the bay with my truck, shut her down for 3 hours, take a nap, get paid for it. You know, once they're done, I pull out and leave. And my trailer's nice and clean. Reload, and then come home and drop the trailer in one of our yards, and they get a local guy to deliver it. So usually within Canada, I'm not picking up or delivering. The exception is if we're going somewhere that's not near home. Like I take a lot of loads out of Chicago that go out to just outside of Montreal, Quebec. Well, Montreal, Quebec is, once you get into Canada, you're 8-9 hours to Quebec. You're 825 kilometers. 100 kilometers an hour is 62 miles an hour. So at 60 miles an hour, you're 8 hours or so, which again, whatever the hell that is in miles, I'm not doing the math. 60 times 8. 100 times 8 is a little bit simpler, right? And then another probably hour into Quebec. So it's a full day to get out there just from the border, let alone from, say, Chicago. So, you know, I'll do those deliveries. And then if I want to keep running, they'll send me down to, say, Pennsylvania to switch out trailers, grab a load, and come back into, I go to Newmarket, Ontario a lot, which again is fairly, close to Toronto and that whole area, so it's close to where I live, to get me home. So they, you know, there's lots of great setups that way. I also like going to the place in Quebec because A, they're friendly, B, they like me because I can speak a little bit of French, and C, they do everything, right? I back onto a scale. The hard part with that place is that it's kind of tight to get into, and it's usually at night. They got a scale, you got to back onto the scale, and you got to come up and parallel park line side into a scale bank. Right, it's on a hill. There's guardrails, like and it's pretty tight. So you just gotta take your time, right? Pay attention. No big deal. Loop around, then you got to do kind of the same type of maneuver into their bay where they unload you. But other than that, they do everything, right? I park where he tells me to park. I come out just to make sure he doesn't need anything else from me. When he says, "Okay, you're good," I go into my truck and I go to sleep for usually it's like 3 hours to unload there. $40 an hour to sit there and sleep. Once I'm done, knocks on my door, hands me my paperwork, and says, "You're good, au revoir," and I go. You know, and then like I said, I've had it where I've come home empty and I get paid the same. Because all these loads, that's the other thing, because all this stuff is rated for a round trip, right? It's not like reefer freight, like, and again, I guess it's because, well, I shouldn't just say reefer freight, because it's going to constantly sound like I'm shitting on the reefer guys. It's that typical van trailer, box trailer freight, and even a lot of flatbed freight now, where everybody's in such high competition that, you know, well, shit, how do we get this customer out from under that customer? I don't. We'll charge them half price because we'll just get backhauls, right? So we'll only charge them for a one-way load, and we'll just get, hope we get a backhaul. Well, that's where you're now running into companies that don't pay their drivers to run empty because they're not rated to run empty anywhere, right? They're expecting to get a backhaul. So, well, no, you get paid when you're loaded because that's suddenly when they're making money again. At least at my company, I'm pretty sure it's probably common for tanker, not just food grade tanker, but tanker all across the board. You're rated for a round trip. Everything is rated for a round trip. They pay for a round trip. So when we grab extra loads, that's just extra gravy, right? Now again, as a driver, I don't necessarily see that extra gravy because I'm doing those miles regardless. But my company gets that extra gravy, which gives them the ability to turn around and give my dad a check for $10,000 to say, "Here, we'll worry about that later," if at all, right? So, in case of point, the PTO pump on my truck is a $7,000 upgrade. It's fine. They didn't make me sign a contract saying don't give it back at the end of it. Like if they were to screw me over and I leave tomorrow, there's no contract that says I have to give the pump back. I got a $7,000 piece of equipment I can sell off the truck if I so choose, or use in the next company. I doubt that would happen. These guys have been really good so far, and I actually really quite like working here. But I mean, again, it's I guess a little bit of insurance that I really don't need, but it's there, right? So I get a good mileage rate, a very good mileage rate. It's all miles. hub miles. I get a good amount of money to sit and wait. The only downside, and I think it kind of fits into that like kind of triangle, you know, that typical like triangle graph. Like you can, you know, there's 3 options. You can pick 2 or 3. And in this case, it would be money, the type of like how good the job is, and your routes, right? Home time is pretty constant, right? I'm not the kind of guy that needs to go home a lot. As a Canadian, I go home a lot more than American truck drivers do, because you guys can bounce back and forth across the country for weeks to months. I almost always inevitably end up back near my house. So rather than do a reset and a truck stop, you know, half an hour from home, I would just go home, right? So usually every other, well, this trip was the longest I've done. Usually every reset I do at home. And it's not being lazy, that's just the way it works. For the sake of explanation, as a Canadian citizen, I cannot legally do, like, how do I word it? I cannot legally perform commerce within the United States. So I am allowed to enter the United States with a load that originated from a country outside of the U.S. Right? So I can enter the U.S. from Canada with a load that delivers into the States. I cannot pick up a load in the States that delivers to another destination within the U.S. So if I, let's say, took a load from Toronto to Denver, and I went from Denver to St. Louis, that Denver to St. Louis, I would be breaking the law, because that is now a job that an American citizen can do. So I'm technically stealing American jobs. You know, like 10, 15 years ago, that wasn't a law, or wasn't anywhere near heavily enforced. So everybody did it. But it's kind of now this thing where a lot of American truck drivers just don't want to go into Canada. You know, either a lot of, I've seen opinions from, you know, why would I want to leave the U.S., to, you know, Canada's a bunch of idiots, to just never had the chance to go. Want to go, but never had the chance. You know, the last guy I spoke to, he loves going to Western Canada. He said, "Oh yeah, I love Manitoba, Saskatchewan, but I don't have any luck in Ontario." Ontario is like our version of California, basically, right? It's where 90% of the laws for the rest of the country seem to come from, which A, is because it's our seat of parliament, but, you know, Washington, D.C. isn't a particularly large space, but California tends to, you know, look at all the truck emissions laws and stuff, right? Everybody's abiding by basically what California wants. You know, so by and large, most of our regulation is originating in Ontario, right? Again, we're governed at 65 miles an hour, so it's a mandatory requirement for Ontario and Quebec. It will slowly spread into other provinces, because nobody is allowed to enter Ontario without their truck physically governed. It's not just a case of you must do 65 miles an hour or less. You must be physically incapable of doing more than 65 miles an hour to enter the province. So again, it's bled into the U.S. Any of the U.S. carriers that come into Ontario, they have to have governors on their trucks. So it will slowly bleed into the rest of the country, because it's, you know, well, fuck, we can't convince them to, you know, if you can't beat them, join them, basically, is what it boils down to. And that's kind of how California does it with other states, right? Especially with emissions laws. You know, yeah, you can still buy a truck that is not legal for California, but if you go to just Peterbilt and buy a Pete, it's a California legal truck, because they can't beat them. They might as well just do what they want, right? Where was I with this? I honestly can't remember. Let's see here, California, trucking, OTR, the Canada stuff. So the other alternative is I can grab loads out of Mexico. So there are free trade zones all along the southern, like, Mexico-U.S. border. So I can enter one of these free trade zones. So technically I'm physically within the U.S., but it's not considered U.S. soil. Pick up a load that came from Mexico, and then I can take it to another U.S. destination. So in theory, I could run back and forth through the southern U.S., which I would love to do, but we don't do, right? Everything's pretty much to or from Canada. But that's, you know, again, that's, I would love to stay south. I would love to stay on the southwest, like California, Arizona, New Mexico. I love it down there. But barring that, I, you know, come in and out of Canada when I want or when I have to, and basically just always go home for a reset. So it's a little bit easier for me that way. You know, I'm home more often, even though I don't really want or need to be. So I get to choose. Like, we've got good pay and great work, but we don't necessarily have the greatest places we go to. I find a lot of tanker stuff tends to stay on the East Coast, right? We do a lot of Georgia, the Carolinas, the Virginias. I go to Pennsylvania quite a bit, Jersey. Areas again that most guys, I don't want anything to fucking do with that. Now, again, it helps us a little bit because all these places we're still able to sleep on the site. So it's the same, right? I don't like going into the ports of New Jersey. But when you're on the ports, there's security guards everywhere. Like, it's actually a safe place to be. You're allowed to park on the property. Papa John's or Domino's delivers, so you can eat and have a safe place to park overnight, and then the next day you've got enough hours to get the hell out of there, right? Where some of these other places where you're going into goofy docks that are half on the road in, say, downtown Newark, and when you're done, you gotta get the fuck out of there, right? So I don't have to deal with that level of frustration, which is a real big benefit here. Like, where I'm going, I will, I'm gonna park at the tank wash tonight, which can be kind of a gong show. It's the weekend, so it might not be too bad. They open at midnight, so I'm gonna get up basically midnight, go in, get the trailer washed, zip down the road to my pickup, load, and that anytime I'm the wash and the load, I can take a nap. Loading takes an hour, so that's a nap. Tank wash takes about 3 hours. I'm napping. Right, I'll get up at midnight literally just to drive across the road into the tank wash and go back to bed. So I'll still get all my sleep, everything I want as far as time off. And then once I'm loaded at 9 o'clock, well, probably 10 o'clock in the morning, quarter in the wind, head back to Canada. Get as far as I can. Because I'll be using up some of my day tomorrow to drive, I'll probably get most of the way through Michigan. Depends on traffic and weather. Again, it's this time of year, it's all over the place, right? But I'm not in a rush. I don't think it delivers until Wednesday or something like that. And I said I don't think I'll be delivering it. The other benefit to working at this place is there really is no such thing as a deadline. Sorry, my mustache is starting to grow way too long. It's curling up, particularly my damn nose. I gotta shave it, trim it down, and manscape this lusciousness a little bit. Most of our deliveries aren't really like a strict schedule. Pickups can be, if you don't make your pickup on time, you might have to sit and wait until they have an opening to load you. I've had that before. But by and large, our deliveries, like I said, I've been 24 hours late for a delivery and they were happy as a clam to see me. Right? I've been early and they're even happier to see me. I've been, a couple hours late. No big deal. You're the only tanker coming today anyways. Don't be worried. Nobody doing this stuff is stressed out, right? The guys at tank washes are the only ones that are even remotely stressed out. And where I'm going, they're great. The staff is awesome. There's some of the drivers for other companies that maybe don't get treated as well, that are not as friendly or not as relaxed, right? I've almost had it out with a driver I don't know who he was. I can't even remember the company he worked for. At this tank wash I'm going to, because he was in a rush and he locked me in as I was trying to turn a corner, and I put my hands in the air. He starts giving me the fingers to drive by. When I started getting out of the truck, he just fucking honked on it and took off. Again, a lot of guys are tough until you show that, okay, I'm gonna call you on it. Let's go, and then they fuck off, right? But the where I'm loading as an example, a security guard, she's a little bit of an attack dog, right? Like a little overprotective of the people inside, but the loading crew are phenomenal. Like, super easy to work with. They shoot the shit with you. A lot of the places I've delivered, I end up just hanging out and shooting the breeze with the guys that are like the receivers, right? It's not like doing door swinger freight where, you're treated like shit by security. You're treated like crap by the forklift drivers. And again, there's exceptions there. Anytime I loaded produce out of California, 9 times out of 10, I was having a conversation with the forklift driver the whole time. We were just shooting the shit, no big deal. But some places, a lot of the places you deliver to are usually pretty, they're not the nicest places, right? They don't want you in the warehouse, and they don't want you out of your truck, or they want you out of the truck, they take your keys and you sit in a booth or stand outside. There was one place, I think it was, a buddy of mine was telling me that it was basically an outdoor bus station. It was it had 3 walls, like a lean-to, and it's like, you know, like -10 out in Fahrenheit, and they're like, you got to give us your keys and you wait there. And some of the guys were standing there for 5 or 6 hours. So you leave there, we're not fucking touching your freight until you go stand back there again. It's like, again, most of those guys deal with that stuff because a lot of times when you're in that scenario, once they put a lock on your trailer, like once they put the dock lock on so that you can't pull away, you're pretty much fucked. They own the product that you're delivering, which means they can sue you or go after you for theft if you leave without delivering the product, right? But they're not under any obligation to free you from that lock because you don't want to stand out in the cold. Now, I've always made the rule that I go sit in my truck. If they don't like it, I'll sit here for 2 days until you guys will eventually unload me, right? You know, I have 2 sets of keys. I've been to one place that asked for my keys, or they wanted your keys set on your step outside of the truck. So I took my spare key and set it on the step, and then just sat in the truck. I didn't start the truck. It was summer. I didn't need to. But, you know, some of those places are ridiculously brutal with their treatment of drivers. Again, no, you must wait outside in the cold in 30 below weather while we unload you. And you could be 6 hours. You must sit in your truck. Truck cannot be turned on and it's fucking 120 degrees and you're fucking dying. You know, you can't get out of your truck at all. You're here for 12 hours. You cannot leave the truck at all. No pee breaks, no food, no nothing. They're not obligated to give you any of that stuff. So some places just don't. Hauling tanker, everybody's great. Everybody's happy to see you. Everybody's friendly. The worst I've had is the odd place. There's a security guard that's like, you know, I'm not really supposed to let you in the building and use the bathroom. And it's like, man, you know, my eyes are turning yellow here. All right. And they kind of laugh and here, just come with me. You know, just if anybody asks, you know, just don't you know, don't make a show or anything, right? And even that's only happened once. And any subsequent visit to that location, they've been great. They've had no problem letting me use the restroom, right? So it's friendly staff, good pay, you know, good work. Because again, even when I have to deliver a load, I back up to where they want me to back up. I dump the air in my trailer. I connect 2 lines, which are my hydraulic fluid lines from the trailer to the truck. Push my clutch in, flick a switch on my dash, which turns my PTO on. Go to the back. There's fucking smudge at the top. Just fucking, I guess that's just the sun glare rather than, you know, dirty grease stains on my fucking phone. Go to the back. I hook 2 metal elbows up together so that from the out of the trailer through the pump out to a hose. Connect the hose to their receptacle. Turn the pump on. When they say, "Yep, we're happy with the flow level," sit there and stand around for, depending on what you're hauling, anywhere from 45 minutes to 2.5 hours. You know, most guys bring a folding chair. Sit there with your folding chair. Do whatever you want, right? Sit on your phone, play guitar, you know, do whatever, as long as you're there so you can see if anything's happening, right? If you get a leak, deal with the leak. You know, if the only time it kind of gets sketchy is chocolate in the wintertime. You know, chocolate hardens, obviously, when it gets cold. And because it's you know, this isn't like a Mars bar or even like a chocolate bunny that's hollow. It's, you know, a thick chocolate. So if you have a chocolate fucking tube that's like, you know, a 6-inch or a 4-inch diameter thick thing of chocolate, you might as well have had it. It might as well be made out of cement, right? Chocolate, when it hardens, it does not actually liquefy to the same consistency as it was when it, you know, was in its original liquid state. And 2, like, it takes a lot to get it to come even close to liquefying. So, you know, there have been instances where guys have let their trailer get too cold and the whole trailer has, like, solidified. You cannot re-liquefy that chocolate. There's so much of it, it will never get warm enough all the way through. Oh, holy shit. All the way through to liquefy. The only thing you can do is go in there with a jackhammer and chip it all out. Which that's a multi-day, like $10,000 to $20,000 fucking job. we run heat to the trailers. That's pretty easy to deal with. But what you can get is if you're pumping, what I do is before I connect these lines, I have the hydraulic lines connected. I can run the pump, but none of the hoses are connected to the pump, so I can see into the pump. So I know which way the impellers have to spin to be pumping the load off the trailer. Because sometimes, depending, some of the hydraulic lines are ambidextrous. So if you hook them up one way, the lever might work the way, say, that the trailer says it will, right? Maybe push in his pump off, pull out his pump on. If you connect them the wrong way, some of them, the older ones, they just won't work. And a lot of the newer ones, they're ambidextrous lines because too many people screw that up and fucking blow lines. So it'll be out as pump off and in as pump on. So you hook it up, you check, you look down inside, you run the impeller nice and slow, and you can see it turns outwards, you're pumping off. It turns inwards, you're pumping on. So you make sure you know which direction is pumping off. Then you hook everything up. So you start running the pump, open the valve, the hot chocolate comes out into that pump, and the hot chocolate immediately is going into a cold pipe, right? If it sits there for too long, it will harden very quickly, and then you're fucked. Same thing with the pump. If the pump is cold and it's not running, the chocolate will go into there and will immediately start to harden. If the pump is running the wrong way, you'll sit there and the chocolate will keep, gravity will try to pull the chocolate into have the chocolate flow into the pump, and the pump keeps kicking it back. It's eventually going to harden because it's sitting there cold or getting cold when it's in cold equipment. If you have the pump running, as soon as the chocolate comes in, it flows right through. Same thing flows into the hose, and you keep it moving right away. The chocolate doesn't have enough time to sit still and harden, and very quickly all your metal components, your elbows, your pump, and then the hose warm up. So at that point, as long as it's running, you got no issues. But you can run into problems, or like I said, if you didn't check it beforehand, so the pump either doesn't work or is pumped the wrong way accidentally. Which I got lucky. I never had it freeze. But nobody taught me this when I first started, so I would have everything connected, open the valve, start the pump. If we got no chocolate flow, okay, well, I'll try the pump the other way and see what happens. I got lucky and never had anything harden, but I could have had a big problem, right? The load in the trailer would have been fine, but anything that had come into the pump would have hardened it. It would have had to take it to a tank wash, have them clean out the pump, and then come back and do it again. So once I learned that, it's very easy to do. Just run the pump a little bit beforehand. So there's those little due diligence things, right? Beyond that, that's all I do is I stand there and supervise it. 9 times out of 10, I don't even unload the thing. Like if I do deliver to place, the receiver they use their own pump. So they hook their own hose up. I sit in the truck, and when they're done, they knock on my door and say, here you go, here's your paperwork, have a nice day. And I take off. Like there's, some places are better than others. The place I deliver in Newmarket, sometimes their pump takes a while. I always end up delivering there late at night, which is fine. I go and take a nap. One of the place we load out of Chicago a lot, their pump that they pump on with, they always pump on because it's drop fed. My pump wouldn't work to load from there, right? Their pump to pump the load onto my trailer takes 6 hours. So you schedule it basically, so that's 6 of your 10 hours off. You sleep. He knocks on my door, I pull out of the bay, I park next to the bay, I go back to bed for another 4 hours, and wake up and go. Right? It's pretty easy to deal with. And then all these places are phenomenal with allowing you to sleep on the property or, do whatever you got to do to make things work for you. So there's a lot of, I find a lot of perks to doing what I'm doing, right? There's a lot of benefits. And again, I've been driving empty, like when I talk about money, like I've been driving empty from Las Vegas, and I'm probably 70 to 100 miles west of St. Louis, except I'm going to get into St. Louis tonight, and that's where I'm going to stop. All empty. So my fuel economy is about as good as it's going to get pulling a tanker behind a 389. And I got paid the same amount of money. Like if I didn't get paid empty miles, this load would be terrible because you'd be, what I get my loaded mileage rate out and nothing back would be like you basically cut your mileage rate in half, and that would be a terrible mileage rate. Where because it's all miles, this was just jammy money. Like I kept a record here for the whole trip. So far I'm at 4,000 miles for this trip, right? So that's as of Friday, that was a full week gone. So I'm a week and a couple days. So I'm not even running particularly hard. By the time I get back, it'll be somewhere around 6,000, 5.5, 6,000. I'm at 6. What was I at here? 423. Yeah, I'll be around 5,000 miles, 5 and change. So for a week and a little bit, that's not too bad. That's half of what I basically need to make in a month to be making like good money. So it's a pretty easy way to get some money. We don't do those runs a lot. 9 times out of 10, our runs are eastern seaboard, or like eastern end of the Midwest, basically east of the Mississippi, which is not my favorite place to run, right? To be totally honest, but it's typically good. Again, good pay, good work. The places you go to are great. I don't get to see all the places that I want to see. Like I said, I don't really want to see Jersey. I've gotten to see Jersey, and that's great. I had to see the port of New Jersey. I could stare at New York City across the way. I mean, I've been to New York, not recently, but I'm not fond of going into the city. Not because the city sucks, but because they're not the easiest to navigate through with trucks, right? Same thing pretty much with all the cities across the board. I don't dislike any cities because I think the people there suck or anything like that. Some cities are easier to navigate through with trucks than others. Some cities have a reputation. Like Vegas has a reputation for people being really shitty to truck drivers, right? A lot of aggressive driving. And to be fair, like I said in my last video or last 2 videos, I got fucked with in Vegas. Like I started fucking playing games. And again, to the best of my knowledge, unless something happened that I wasn't aware of somehow, it was unprovoked. So, there's those kinds of things. But I don't really dislike any cities just because, fuck that. Fuck Chicago or whatever. It's fucking Chicago. Chicago's not that bad of a city to get through in a truck. St. Louis, I'm not super huge on, but again, it's just because it's busy. Like, it can get busy. And again, it's a Sunday afternoon, so it shouldn't be too bad, but I don't know if there's a fucking football game today or not. I'm not a sports guy, so. But beyond that, like I said, I like food grade tanker. If I make a mistake and get something spilled on me, it's not going to kill me, right? It's delicious chocolate, and I can eat it. I've literally had guys, like I've got fucking at least 2 right now. This right here is a sample cup that I was given by one of the guys, and see if we can get a nice view in there. That's chocolate. That's literally a cup full of chocolate that they gave me. I said, "Here, man, want some chocolate?" I said, "No." "Well, I'm sure you got friends or family that do." So I still have to toss those, sir. It's literally a cup full of solid chocolate. I've had guys. I had one where we pumped the load off, and the load, they didn't have a method of getting all of the load off. So when the pump finally couldn't pump anymore, just because there wasn't enough getting pulled into the pump, all right, shut her down, you're good to go. I got to the tank wash, and the guy looks inside, he's like, "There's too much chocolate in here. What we're gonna have to do is you're gonna have to pump it off, and we're gonna go inside and push with a big squeegee and push all the chocolate to the back." Okay, running the pump. Well, there's me and one other guy standing there. The hose is pumping white chocolate into a great big, it's bigger than a Gaylord box, like a great big plastic container with a bag inside, right? So it's a giant garbage bin, and literally there's nothing in it. So it fills up with chocolate. Him and I are just standing there, just dipping our fingers in and just eating it. Because it's white chocolate, like it's warm white chocolate. It's as clean as it's gonna get. So then finally the guy climbs out. "I think we're about done." It's like, "All right, come join the party." So I stood there shooting the shit with the wash guys for like half an hour. We're just eating fucking fingerfuls of chocolate out of this fucking trailer. I was like, great. That same place when I delivered, the guy had given me 2 full cups of white chocolate that came out of my trailer. Like, it's food. It's chocolate. So it's like, worst comes to worst, I'm gonna get a bath in something I want to fucking eat. Like, it's, where if you're running chemical tanker, you can get a bath like a caustic soda or something and die. For this. And the chocolate, it's 120 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a hot California day. That's hot. That's not even hot tub warm. Like, it's gonna be warm chocolate, but it's not scalding hot chocolate, right? So it's a nice warm chocolate bath. Well, yeah, that really makes it difficult to get clean and get back in your truck afterwards. It's much better than, getting fucking bleach or I don't know, God knows what dumped on you. My dad once, when he hauled chemical, had a load of waste oil get poured on him. It's the same thing. It's not immediately hazardous, but it's used oil. Like, it's disgusting. I get chocolate, you got oil, right? So I think that pretty much covers it. It's a good job. It's a great place. It's good pay, good miles. Most of the owner-operators are ecstatic here, and they're on a big owner-operator push. Most of the owner-operators claim that after fuel and expenses, they're making anywhere from $13,000 to $20,000 a month. That's good. That's pretty good owner-operator money, right? If you're even in the middle, if you average it out, say $15,000 a month, that pays for the truck, that pays for maintenance, and that puts still probably close to $6,000 or $7,000 in my pocket. That's pretty good for, that makes sure that the truck gets paid for, and I don't, go homeless or any of that stuff, right? There might be some places where you could potentially make more money, but I don't think there's many places where you could consistently make as much money, right? Again, a lot of guys, I've met guys, well, I make $2.30 a mile. I took a load, paid $3 a mile. But then you ask them, well, it's on the load board, so it was when I got loaded, I'd drive 150 miles to get there. It's like, your stipulations start coming out. Well, the load paid $3 a mile, but you had to deadhead 200 miles to get there. Well, that cuts into your profit, and it only paid the loaded miles. And it was, maybe it was going into somewhere that didn't have particularly good backhauls, or even if it did, yes, you might have made more money, but the next load you might only be able to find a load that pays $1.20 a mile, which is shit, right? I wouldn't turn my fucking truck on for that. But I prefer the consistency of my mileage rate, right? I get a little over $2 a mile.